Welcome to today's training video, which is designed for all Summit Learning Charter staff and deals with some important new changes in the way you will track your days worked, hours worked, leave, and travel using Weka Pro. Everything basically has been changed in some respect. Gone are the days of the weekly timesheets. Gone is your need to track your time spent working with individual students when you record individual student contacts. In place is the assumption that you have a work agreement that specifies a number of days and a number of hours in the year that you've been employed, and this is instructions on how you will be able to track that in order to satisfy the business manager and the director, and at the end, the auditors, as to how we are spending our money. All of this is accomplished at the tab that you are used to working with called MyStuff. Now, the appearance has changed a good deal here. All the data, by and large, that was in the old MyStuff is still here. But right now, I want to talk about managing your calendar and tracking your work. When you first go to MyStuff, you will see a screen like this that shows the school year and the months of this school year. You can click on any one of those months. I'm going to click on August so that we can display the data that's there. And right now, there isn't a lot of data there. But what now shows up on this screen? On the left are three columns that actually come from the ADM school calendar that the administration puts together and that you can see when you look at school calendar in Weka Pro. The information on there as to the type of day that it is, like teacher in service, and the information about notes that have been put on there by either Sean or myself or Cindy Cole are on the first three columns. The rest of these columns over here all deal with your information for this particular month. I'm working with a blank slate right now to try and walk you through what you can do for setting this up. And the first thing that you need to do is to specify what days you're working and what the type of day that is. Now, there is a quick way to do that, at least the base information. Go to the Build My Calendar button over here for this month and click it. What happens is the system will go through your day, and that's what this is, my day for the month, and any place where it sees either an instructional day, an in-session day, or a teacher in-service day, it will specify that as a work day for you. Now, it may be that one of those days is not a work day for you, in which case you can select it and just hit the backspace key and it will be changed. But if you select workday, or if you fill in some other work days, so for instance, here at the first of the month, I have some work days that I will quickly fill in here. And so the first thing you see is at the bottom of the column here, it specifies how many work days we have set for the month. Whether you've actually passed that day or not is immaterial. It's been loaded in up here at the top of this column. Now, the next column over is called the EIO column. Now, this is a new feature, and what it does is it analyzes the data that's imported every day from the EIO software, EIO board software. And if the EIO software has imported information for you that you actually had logged on to the EIO site on that particular day, you will see an OK in that box. If the box is empty, there is no EIO data. Implication that you didn't use the EIO software, which is something that we will be working on. There is a column for my comments, And then there are two columns over here. One says expected hours. Now, that is a column that's filled based on your contract or your work agreement. And it's the expected hours that you are to work on that day. So let's talk about that for just a minute, real quickly. If you're a 190-day employee and you're a full-time employee, then you should expect to see each work day that you put in here that you're expected to work 8 hours. What's next to that is a column that actually says how many hours you worked. Now, I know this sounds slightly redundant, but there is a method in this in terms of reporting. And notice at the top of that column, this box, or the button that says Fill for Workdays. I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice that it just quickly went down and said, okay, here's a work day. He's expected to work 4 hours. He worked 4 hours. There's a problem with that, in that we all know that there are days when you will work more than the hours that you have in your work agreement. Here's the dirty little secret about that. You don't get any overtime for hours worked. So there is a new feature in terms of how you track your work here. And there are two columns labeled banked hours in and out. Think of this in terms of the old world concept of comp time. So let's just say that on August 1st here, I didn't work just 4 hours, I worked 6 hours. So I'm going to record the fact that I worked my 4 and I banked 2 hours. That means 2 hours here means I worked 2 hours more than what I put over here. Today, however, August 8th, I'm going to make this a work day for me. And I'm going to work just a couple of hours this morning. So I am going to put in here that I worked 4 hours because that's what I'm expected to work. But I'm really only going to work 2 hours, and I'm going to take 2 hours out of the bank. Now, I'm going to take that away here for a minute and point something out. At the bottom of this column down here, there are two summary boxes. This one has a 2 in it because there's 2 hours banked in up here. This one has nothing because there isn't anything, and they're red. Here's the most important thing to remember. By the time you get to the end of the month, before you submit this for payroll, those boxes have to be green or empty. So basically what that's saying is you can bank hours in during the month on days that you work more than your contract. You can remove hours from the bank on days that you work less than your work agreement. But by the end of each month, these have to balance. I know that means you can't work bank hours throughout all the year and then call me up in April and say, well, I've got enough banked hours, I don't think I'll work the rest of the year. This is a convenient way for us to be transparent about the fact that you're expected to work a certain amount of time. That's what the work agreement calls for. But that the board and I understand that there needs to be flexibility in that, particularly for people that work in the field. We've talked about tracking days worked. We've talked about tracking hours each day. We're going to stop this session right here and create another one so that there isn't as much stuff to download, to be right honest with you. And then that one will deal with some of these other items that are on there. Most all of this stuff is so self-explanatory as to make it silly that I make this video. But for those of you that want to be able to review all this stuff, this should be helpful.